Hey nice people, how you doing? So this is my finest work in this video. I hope you enjoy it. Please share the video. This video contains alchemical information which links us to the Stone Age, links us to everything. I've incorporated Stone Age concepts into alchemy to uncover lost Druid knowledge. You're not going to believe what I show you in this video. Now, in the previous video, we tried to make an alchemical periodic table based on mineral, plant and animal. And I thought, look, there's another way of doing this. What about something more like a temperature pressure diagram or something based on the 4 states of matter or something like that? And I thought, well, why not use the Alchemical Circle? So let's get onto the Alchemical Circle. This was the previous alchemy video. And here is where we start to get very interesting indeed. So we are deciphering the alchemy script with Stone Age concepts. Now, great website by Peter and Louise Yandatsek. They wrote an article called 100 Monographs. Check that out. Because in that article, they talked about a Central European origin of alchemy, where the Czech word for vinegar is ocet, medicine is honey, and in alphabetical order, vatra, vyatra, voda, and tverd. So, but tverd first and then these two. So what we can do, I thought, okay, let's put this into the alchemical circle, but in this alphabetical order, the 4 elements. So this is fire. So it starts with earth, fire, wind, water. And these are almost like palindromes for Druids to rhyme. So these words would have been generated by Druids attempting to rhyme, attempting to learn by oral tradition, which is fascinating. So we put them in a circle and we have earth, fire, wind, water. And I've chosen to represent them in this way because then suddenly, boom, things start to make sense. Symbols start to be explained in alchemy. We are deciphering alchemy. This is so exciting. And what we have here, the spiral of creation. So it is known that fire plus wind, it was thought, makes sulfur by condensation, which is basically liquid. You then add the fire, the wind and water, you get evaporation, gas. And then you, which makes, i.e. mercury, and then mercury plus earth, sublimation makes the solid. So we have different ways, different ideas of representing things in alchemy. And we're going to incorporate some Stone Age symbols later. And we're also going to show you that Glagolithic and alchemical script and other Central South European scripts are identical to alchemical information, underlying and implying a lost tradition. And we're going to show you, I seem to have rediscovered a lunar representation of alchemical substances, which is absolutely fascinating. So, firstly, there is an inner redundancy in alchemy which suggests 3 combined traditions. There is duality, Mercury, the moon or female, the gas liquid, plus sulfur, the sun, liquid solid. Almost implying the positive negative charge of nature. There is also a trinity tradition in alchemy. Mercury plus sulfur plus salt. There is also what I'd call a tetrarchy tradition in alchemy. Earth plus fire plus water plus air. And every one of these traditions tries to incorporate the states of matter. And it just ends up confusing us in a way. But it shows the extreme age of alchemy, that all these traditions have been incorporated. And what I've done is to demonstrate an eclipse tradition in alchemy. As we get more pure within the alchemical circle, we move towards the edge. Now, what we're doing is this. I've noticed that you can depict an alchemical element, or an alchemical substance rather, as a crescent moon on this alchemical circle with the fire, air, the liquid and the air. How do you do that? Well, the metals have a bit of liquid in them, a bit of water in them, because they are cold and silvery and shiny. They have a bit of earth in them because they're from the earth, they're from ore, which was how they thought that, metals must be impure. And they have a bit of fire in them if they're shiny, like copper, for example, or you have to burn them and get the fire out, or they react violently like magnesium. Urea, meanwhile, will be a crescent moon on this side of the alchemical circle, because say urea, because it's an air substance. It smells. It's turning into air, vapors, etc. Now, what happens if we refine according to alchemy? What happens if we do this? The spiral of creation, as the Jogon called it, the fire, the wind, the water, the earth, the condensation, the evaporation, the sublimation on these substances. We will purify. And as we purify, that substance will shift to an arc of the circle, because what you're doing is you're pushing it away from the other areas, let's say towards the earth, away from the fire, the air, the liquid. And you can start to represent things, pure substances, as an eclipse. And as you purify things, you get rid of the other things, you get a smaller and smaller arc. And eventually you get a diamond ring effect. And the reason I'm mentioning this, it doesn't seem so at this stage, but the reason I'm mentioning this is what ancient people depicted in their earthworks, as we're going to find out. So is this a discovery? It's a hypothesis of an eclipse style way of representing the alchemical symbols as a crescent moon on this circle, as a crescent. So now I also have to mention something else, just so no one's confused. When we say that substances are made up of mercury, sulfur, salt, we're not talking about elemental mercury, elemental sulfur, or even the modern definition of salt as an ionic compound. Salt back in the day seems to have meant crystal or solid. Mercury. Look, what happened was this. Mercury and sulfur were actually called quicksilver and brimstone, but the elemental forms of them actually adopted the alchemical names and alchemical concepts, because these two substances were seen as almost the pure archetype of the philosophical concept of mercury as a volatile gas and sulfur as an oily liquid. But that confuses us modern people. So here we go. I believe this could be a lost way of representing alchemical substances. Stonehenge matches alchemy laws. That's right, Stonehenge matches alchemy laws. So in Stonehenge we have the trilithons. We have the sazens in a horseshoe arrangement around them. There is nothing there, despite what they say, nothing there. And what this is, it's two snakes joining, as we've mentioned. But what this is, the female, what's actually going on is that the female snake is the bigger one, the male snake is the smaller one. So what's happening is that the female is the Mercury, the moon, and switching off the fridge, and sulfur is the sun. And so what's happening? Do you see what's happening? The snakes of Mercury and sulfur meet, they consummate. So this is the creation of all living substances, the meeting of mercury and sulfur. And it's interesting. The male symbol is actually, which is also a symbol of iron, is a picture of Stonehenge pointing towards the solstice. Fascinating. So then we go to step 2. The snake eats its tail. Because what's happening is, not only do you have two snakes biting each other, male and female, but then there's a third element happening here. You have a ditch, which is erroneously called a henge, but it's actually just a ditch. Modern people have called it a henge for some reason. No, it's a ditch. And sunlight enters the monument on the solstice. What's happening? Now you have the snake biting its tail, which of course, according to Nordic mythology, is the end of the world and the world being recreated. That's what's going on at Stonehenge. In Arthurian lore, this happens, because the red dragon from Wales meets the white dragon of the Saxons. And you may recognise this. It's a basic diagram of the 1240 AD map written by Matthew Paris of UK as a rectangular plane. He placed Salisbury in the centre, and he placed Scotland in the north like that. And he really did make England as a rectangular plane. The red snake, the white snake, meeting in the middle. In Arthurian lore, it says the white snake actually slays the red dragon, which would be kind of a reversal. So that's quite interesting. Going across the landscape to meet in the middle at the omphalos. So Alchemy symbols are used in earthworks. So here we have the sulfur, here we have the Mercury, the feminine principle in Stonehenge, the sarzens and then the ditch around biting its tail. It's a marriage of sulfur and Mercury. That's what Stonehenge is. And iron, Mars, male. That's the alchemical symbol of night. That's the alchemical symbol of day. Do you see? It's replicated in Stonehenge. Did Stonehenge generate the alchemical symbols? Did the alchemical symbols generate Stonehenge? That's what's happening at Stonehenge. And look, Callanish. Callanish looks like Mercury. If that's male, the sulfur, that's female, Stonehenge of the North, in Scotland. So we have here female, Mercury, gas, volatile, the horns, bull cult. It's a Stone Age concept. Callanish is Scotland female and Britain male, according to the old conception of Britain. With there's Britain being male and there's the smaller female bit at the top with Callanish right up there. You know what? You could even describe Callanish as on the point. They put it on the point. And we go deeper and deeper. So purity increases till singularity is reached. So fire, wind, water, earth. The base metals can be considered to be on the earth side of the equation because they're from the earth. They all have a bit of water in them, a bit of earth in them, a bit of fire in them. Sublimate, condensate, evaporate. And it's said that you really need to evaporate around 7 times or distill around 7 times before you start to get anywhere in alchemy, because everything is basically a combination of impurities. So is pure gold, to actually get to a substance which is very pure, free of impurities, you have to split off parts of that circle. So there will be a mercury impurity and a sulfur impurity, possibly the philosopher's stone, which you need to split off to get to that pure gold, that diamond ring effect. So, let's compare all this with symbols. That's the symbol of silver. That's the symbol of water. That's Neptune. And it seems to me another symbol of water, because what's happening is that with the water on the bottom of the circle. Earth. Earth is pointing down towards the water, and it's away from the fire. So it's basically water and fire is absent. The symbol of earth is touching all because everything is on earth. Earth, fire, wind, water. So have we linked alchemical symbols with that alchemical circle? You see what I'm getting at? In the symbol of fire, which is a triangle, I've placed that in the alchemy circle. Water seems to be absent. So it works. The system works. Sort of. Salt. Salt is just a line across the circle. And the circle is incorporated in the symbol. Is it the 2 snakes meeting? Is it earth plus wind evaporating? Because you have earth on this side, wind on that side of the alchemical circle. And for more information, by the way, on the diamond ring effect and all this, see Stonehenge, see my previous videos about stone circles representing eclipses and diamond ring effects. So alchemy incorporates a compound nomenclature as well. For example, you can almost describe sulfur, gold, and mercury as elements in alchemy, very pure substances in alchemy. Platinum, we know, doesn't react. So it's very interesting how the alchemists did platinum, a moon next to the sun. Why would that be? Because it's a union of the moon, silvery Mercury, plus the sun. It's an indivisible union. That's why it doesn't react. So platinum is used in electrodes or whatever you don't want to react. And very expensive, very expensive. So that is an indivisible union. That's not changing. So the sun, sulfur, iron. Now, look what happens. We actually combine the two and make gold. And this isn't my stuff. This is known. And so gold, therefore, has a bit of sulfur in it, a bit of the sun in it. Look at this, the symbol of magnesium. I noticed it looks a lot like a circle, but it's more on this side of the circle, on the air side. And that is true! Because when you burn up magnesium, tremendous amounts of vapor come off it. So the magnesium symbol deciphered by placing it in the circle implies it's mainly air. It undergoes rapid combustion. Air wants to escape. And here we have possibly a link with the early phlogiston theory. So phlogiston was basically before oxygen was discovered. It was said that every substance which is combustible contains something called phlogiston, which helps it combust, energy. And so, for example, carbon was said to be 99% phlogiston because it can almost completely, totally combust into CO2. Oxygen was not known of. So phlogiston, unlike what modern people say about it, was not oxygen. Because how could it be? They didn't know about oxygen. But it's better defined as energy. And this energy released into the air. I just thought I'd mention that as an aside. So, are ancient batteries a possibility? Because I've noticed copper and zinc. Copper and zinc are kind of a very similar symbol. And copper and zinc was the first battery discovered by Volta. You mix that with acid. Let's apply them to the circle, and we can make a kind of properties cloud map. So, fire, wind, water. What are they pointing to on the circle? They're sort of pointing to these areas. Is this the properties of copper? Are these the properties of zinc? Can we make a properties map? Something like a Hertzsprung-Russell, just a loose version of that. The zinc seems to have more emphasis on fire and water. Look at the ores. I'm not sure if that's true or not. Certainly the zinc ore looks quite fiery. The copper ore is more green, more earthy. Anyway, that's a hypothesis. So let's apply a few more. Vinegar, it seems to be on the bottom of the circle. So it's mainly water if we apply it to the circle. And I don't think any alchemist has ever said you can apply their symbols to circles. So I've drawn a crescent to represent it. Acid seems to loop over the top of a circle. What's going on there? Well, you have the male element here, the female element in the wind, the male element in the earth. Are they showing that acids, being oily or sulfury, have water removed? Of course, these days we know acids must have water or they don't work. Acids cause electrochemistry. They turn something into mercury and sulfur. They pull things apart. They destroy things. They cause an electrical reaction. They cause a battery to happen. But that's just an idea. Stone Age symbols apply to alchemy. They can combine with the Alchemy Circle. That's the hypothesis. Can we put a diamond in the circle? Can we put other symbols in the circle? Can we put the cosmic spiral of creation in the circle? Often the spirals have 7 or 9 turns in them. So, alchemy symbols are quite similar to Glagolithic, which is quite interesting, which is a Central European alphabet. Are they identical? Not really, but they are related. Mercury, let's look at it. Mercury is an ankh. It's life. And the Chinese emperors drank elemental mercury to live forever. Alchemy held this as a pure form of the feminine principle or the mother. That's what they thought Quicksilver was. So Mercury in alchemy, it's a lady with the horns or the arms raised. And that's similar to the antimony symbol. Antimony is very sacred. It's a silver liquid also, like Mercury, so it has a similar composition, but as it solidifies, it makes a weird crystal star pattern, so it was very sacred. But anyway, Glagolithic, the symbol of life, looks like that Mercury symbol. Alchemy tree wood symbol. In Egypt, we have life. This means 1 million. In Egyptian, living forever. Mercury. You see, linking the Egyptian tradition with the Chinese tradition. We're just seeing clue after clue after clue here. It's really incredible. So there's a Glagolithic DS. There's silver, like S for silver. It's not the same as Glagolithic, but it could be close. The Great Moravian, script, and we're going to look at that in depth in a second. As you're going to be convinced, it's really interesting. Here's Earth, soil, or gemia. In Glagolithic, there is the earth symbol. Another version pointing downwards, tverdo, solid, hard. So let's look at some examples on the computer and then we'll come back in a moment. Hey everyone. So Eastern Europe, Central Europe obviously encountered many invasions in the Dark Ages, and there wouldn't have been a book left after all the terrible invasions that were endured, everything wiped out. But there would have been an empire, possibly, keeping the Romans south of the Danube for centuries. And the Romans being possibly a little bit like the French might have inherited some of their culture of put France first, put Rome first. They haven't spoken too much of the foreigners except to put them down. So the Romans, wherever they have written of foreigners, have put them down. And this has affected our modern history, our modern understanding. So rather than coming from Central Europe or wherever, despite the clues, alchemy does come down to us. It's an Arabic word. It comes from the Arabs, in particular Geber and pseudo-Geber. I wondered if any of his writings survive. Purportedly, here was a rare alchemy manuscript by Jabir ibn Hayyan. So we're looking at 700s AD. Apparently this is a manuscript. It would be written on parchment, which is a kind of animal skin. And just by these 4 sample pages, I'm not seeing the alchemy symbols. I'm seeing a few interesting symbols, whether they're Arabic or whether they're Egyptian. I'm not seeing the alchemy symbols. Where do they come from? There are lost works. So here is Glagolithic, which was the language of probably I think the language of Great Moravia, which was keeping Charlemagne out of Central Europe. So there was an empire possibly blocking him, which was not recorded or incompletely recorded. And someone familiar with alchemy will look at these symbols and they're going to say, hang on a second, they look strangely familiar. I'm going to bring up some alchemy symbols and place them next to those. And you're going to see straight away circles on the ends of lines, circles on the ends of lines. These are alchemy symbols. I'm in the way. And this is the language, the script of probably, I think, Great Moravia. And something which is only on a few maps. They don't even want to put an empire there. Fascinating, just fascinating. Now we're going to look at something else. These are alchemy symbols also, strange looking symbols for everything. They're almost evil looking, aren't they? They're quite interesting, almost like sigils. So there is a link between the sigil tradition and the alchemy tradition. Right, possibly the Jews of Europe, in particular, maybe living in Eastern Europe, writing some of their the so-called black magic books in this alchemical font. Right here, these are alchemical symbols. Obviously, look. Now we're going to look at this alphabet of Illyrica, and the alphabet of Illyrica looks a lot like alchemy symbols. It's also quite interesting, just the similarity, and they say this is a forgery. They also say the alphabet of the Welsh, uncovered by Baron Blackett and Alan Wilson, recorded in the 18th century by a Welsh antiquary called, I believe his name was Iolo, and they say that's a forgery. They say the Scottish Ossian, which was the Scottish Iliad, that's a forgery. They say that the Atland story, which records a great catastrophe, which I noticed is at the same time as the Egyptian First Intermediate Period, which that Olinda book says burnt up most of Germany, so no doubt wiping out its history. They say that's a forgery. So I'm wondering, is there anything that isn't a forgery? Is there any country that's allowed to have their own alphabet other than the Greeks and the Romans in ancient times and Egyptians? Is there any country which is allowed an alphabet? And I suspect these are not forgeries. These are 18th century antiquaries trying to make a name for themselves, as modern academics do, by pushing each other's lower, trying to put each other down. And in fact, these works were added to in more modern times, and they say, well, there's a bit of modern information in there, so it must be so throw it all out. Now, it seems to me that that is not sufficient evidence to say that something is a forgery in total. because we know that medieval chronicles are added to, marginal notes are added to, and then the whole thing is copied out with the marginal notes. Just because an ancient work is written down by a medieval monk with marginal notes, then the marginal notes are incorporated into a later copy, does that make the ancient work a forgery? Not really. Not in my mind. But many ancient works are pseudo for this reason. Let's look at another so-called forgery over here. How do I do this? The Croatian alphabet. These very, very strongly look like they look related to alchemy symbols, which is quite fascinating. I'll just move my. You know, I can move myself out of the way like that. Yeah, see, amazing. So you see, I just wanted to show you that there is a link. There is a link between the alchemy alphabets and something happening in Eastern Europe, possibly the Jews who historically have lived in Eastern Europe since ancient times. They wrote in a language before Yiddish. They had another language called Canaanitish. They spoke this language in Eastern Europe. Possibly there were many Jewish alchemists. They wrote in this font. Their books are gone. Okay, let's get back to the rest of the video. Okay, we're back. So, what have we learned? We have learned that alchemy books were written in a script of Central East Europe or Egyptian. These books no longer exist, but the script remains as alchemy symbols, and no one studies their origin. Multiple clues to Central European origin of alchemy exist. Hypothesis: alchemists lived in pre-Egypt, circa 3700 to 3100 BC, making superb pottery. Exhibit A. This was sold at Christie's for $3,250 in 2013. What this is pre-dynastic pottery of a very high standard that the Egyptians couldn't really equal throughout the whole Egyptian period, which is interesting. In addition, we see the same spirals we see in Europe. Here there are 7 to 9 turns. I'm not quite sure how far it goes, probably 9. Here there are 4. 9, of course, being a sacred number of ancient Britain. And this is would have been made by alchemists living in Egypt before the Egyptians, the ancestors of the Egyptians. Earthworks, megaliths of the same era, 3000s BC, represent, as we have seen, sulfur-Mercury duality and the Nordic serpent mythology. Alchemy symbols can be placed in an alchemy circle of fire, earth, wind, water to decipher their meaning, and that's the main hypothesis of the video. I don't know if you've encountered this before, but I don't know if it's true. Alchemy symbols are invented by different lost authorities and follow differing conventions. We've seen that. Alchemy symbols are not direct letters from Central European scripts, but are too similar not to be based upon them. Endless invasions have devastated the history of the area in Central Europe, so we don't have those books. Instead, we have very strange, obscure alchemy works which don't make a lot of sense. So the glagolithic Croatian Illyrian scripts survive. Hence, was alchemy practiced right through Roman times into the modern era. Alchemy books of the Middle Ages seem heavy on theory, light on procedure. These are the surviving ones. They only represent probably a tiny fraction of prehistoric Druid knowledge, some of which we've uncovered in this video. Hopefully. I might be wrong. And like modern academics, these alchemists, the books that survive, create an aura of obfuscation to appear wiser than they are. The end.